guys, welcome back to Movmed. Today we're going to talk about what our in and up is. So when I'm talking about in and up, I'm talking about our flinch response. They're what most people call our fight or flight response. So at all times, our brain, through our sensory system, is going to be perceiving our environment, okay? So we're going to have all kinds of inputs, billions and billions of inputs into the brain, right? The brain perceives it, decides on a scale whether I should be perceiving this as threat or no threat, okay? 0 to 10. Depending on where that scale is, our body is always going to react, and it always reacts the same way. So now we're going to look first at globally what in and up looks like, and then locally at the more distal parts of the body. So first globally, we have our nervous system comprised of the brain and spinal column. Okay, I'm going to refer to this as the midline moving forwards. And what happens is our automatic system, the system that keeps us alive, the system that keeps us from getting injured, is here to predominantly protect our organs first, and then our face and airway. So we go in and then we go up. So what that looks like is we want to protect the bundle of nerves that serves the rest of the body, okay, all of our organs in the torso. So what we do, we flinch in and then we go up. So what does this look like? Here, what happens if we perceive a bunch of little threats throughout the day? We accumulate it, and we accumulate it, we add it up, and we add it up, and we add it up, and we end up residual tension in our shoulders, in our biceps, in our chest. And we may think that this is something to do with our posture, but a lot of times this has to do with our overall environmental perception and how our body's functioning. So on a global level, we see that every time we have a flinch response, our tendency is to take our shoulders in and up, in and up. How do we relieve this? When our body's in a no threat situation, we relax. Oh, we get a nice exhale, right? We don't need to guard ourselves. We don't have to pull our arms in. So what happens? We get this nice relaxation. We get a long neck. We get nice broad shoulders, okay? In the next clip, I'm gonna show you how we cross-section a limb and how this in and up applies maybe at the forearm. So we're gonna take a look at the forearm next. Now we're gonna go out further from the spine. So we had the midline. We understand in and up around the midline. Makes sense. How does this end up manifesting outside to the periphery in our body? How do we find this in our limbs? Well, tension is expressed globally. It's not local. You don't get a tight bicep and then have not tight triceps. The reality is you have an imbalance and your whole body is tight. So how does this apply here? Let's take a cross section. I've got the elbow here, a very coarse drawing of a cleaver coming down, cutting an elbow in half. Ulna on one side, the larger of the two bones, and the radius on the outside. Okay, so we're looking predominantly at the forearm portion. Now what happens here? When we're tight, and the biceps are tight, the triceps are tight, brachioradialis is tight, all the extensors in the forearm are tight, all the flexors of the hand are tight, what do? We end up compressing the elbow. So what happens? Everything goes in, cross section, right? So now the circumference of my elbow is tighter. Everything goes tight. What also happens? We end up reducing the space in our joints and shortening the limbs. Do you think you're gonna move nice and free and high speed and low brakes with lots of space or with little space? Do we want our bones ramming into each other, or do we want to have nice lubricity and space for our bones to move so that the synovial fluid and all that stuff that keeps our joints healthy can thrive? Yeah, I thought so. So in that, what we also have to consider is circulation, and we also have to consider nerve supply, okay? Or, the concentration of nerves, I should say, in that area. So when we decompress, what does that do to the signal? Very much like the garden hose analogy, we can have a little tiny hose and we could sit there all day and water the lawn for 4 hours, or we could get a big fat hose and we can get that watering done in 10 minutes. And that's basically what we can do with our elbow here. If we have a nice decompressed joint, that means we have uninhibited circulation, uninhibited signals from the sensory system to head back up, and uninhibited motor signals to head from the brain back out to the hands and feet, operating the entire limbs. So if this is starting to make sense, I'll break into a little bit deeper in a future video. But for now, just understand that in and up can mean towards the spine and up towards the brain, but it can also mean in towards the bones and up towards the proximal joint. We'll talk more on this later. In and up, remember it, you're gonna need it.